Happy fall! Welcome to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. My name is Kaylee.
And my name is Desi.
Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe button to turn on post notifications. Before we get into this case, we always encourage those who have useful information to any unsolved case, please report it to your local police and sheriff department.
Today we will be soaring into the disappearance of Malaysia Flight 370. It is 12:42 a.m. on March 8th, 2014. 239 passengers are aboard this plane from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Some of these passengers include a couple coming home from their honeymoon to their kids, a construction worker who hasn't been home in the past year, and some Chinese calligraphers.
The plane is heading for Beijing, China. It's 1:21 a.m. The plane is with Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control and is currently over South China Sea. The captain speaks, "Good night, Malaysian 370. From the satellite, there was a ping that the flight did continue for 7 more hours. Bam! It crashes somewhere around 1,000 miles west of Perth, Australia."
Around 1:21 a.m., 39 minutes after takeoff, Malaysian Flight 370 was flying over China Sea when the plane's position vanished from the radar at the Area Control Center. Data from Malaysian military radar showed that the plane almost immediately turned southwest and headed back towards the Malay Peninsula. Around 2:22 a.m., the plane goes over the peninsula and turns towards the Bay of Bengal. It takes a south turn towards Indian Ocean, and around 2:39, a ground-to-aircraft phone call made through the plane's satellite link goes unanswered. 5:30 a.m., a search and rescue effort is launched, and around 7:24 a.m., Malaysia Airlines released a statement announcing that Flight 370 is missing.
Search and rescue efforts. So there was definitely extensive search and rescue efforts. They searched the ocean for 52 days, and they searched approximately 1.7 million square miles. So that's a lot of miles. And then we do recall that the plane was noted to crash somewhere around 1,000 miles west of Perth, Australia. April 28th, after searching for that extensive period of time, they called off the search. They did use sonar technology. If you don't know what sonar technology is when you use sound waves in the ocean to navigate where objects are in the ocean.
After this, debris from the plane were found on the Mascarene Islands. The Mascarene Islands, if you don't know, are a group of islands in the East Indian Ocean, located about 420 miles east of Madagascar. Almost 3 years after the crash, the underwater search for the plane was suspended after they had searched more than 46,000 square miles of ocean floor, still finding no wreckage. October 2020, plane debris is found on an Australian beach, sparking the theory that it is from the missing plane. $200 million was spent on this search, but zero luck.
Now into the theories. The first 2 theories are that it could have been a Russia hijacking, or it could have been, the U.S. government shootout. So first of all, we know that Russia has had a lot of technology advances, just like the West, so it's obviously easy for them to have the technology to hijack this airplane. Also, in 2014, Russia was annexing Crimea, Ukraine, and people think that this may have been a distraction from them annexing Crimea. This also is theorized that it could have been a possible ploy to hurt the West. So obviously, considering all those circumstances above, it does seem like it could be possible that Russia did do this. Now, if Russia really did hijack the plane, this could also be a part of the second part of this theory. So if this really was a ploy to hurt the West, and it was a possible distraction from Russia annexing Crimea 2014, obviously this would have been a motive for the U.S. to believe it had been hijacked. If this plane had been hijacked, obviously the U.S. would probably decide to shoot it down. just for security purposes. And like with Area 51 and a bunch of other interesting stuff in the US could have covered this up. And then the last kind of theory just thrown in this whole mixture is that heck, North Korea could have even taken it too. They have been a little bit unpredictable, so who's to say that they couldn't have not taken it? Do you think that Russia hijacked this plane because they were using it as a distraction from them annexing Crimea?
It's very possible they could have done it as a distraction. Russia could have done it as a distraction from them annexing Crimea. They also could have done it as a possible ploy to hurt the West because it would be more in their favor and this would work out better for them. It would keep the world from paying attention to what Russia has been doing, which they've been doing a lot of awful things, to be honest. Annexing Crimea is just the beginning of all that shit with Ukraine, unfortunately. Russia's good at creating distractions, so very possible.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. If Russia did hijack the plane, do you think that the US did shoot this plane down in an act of defense?
Yes, because in a situation like that, it's better for the plane to be shot down than if the plane, was hijacked, for Russia to completely take this plane with them, with all these passengers on it. It's kind of a breach of security, so in that case, the US would have to shoot it down in order to protect those. They would definitely cover it up because they don't want people to know about it.
Right, because of all those innocent civilians.
We have protocols.
Yeah, we have different
We have to go by.
And then my last question is really way out there. Do you think North Korea, Kim Jong-un, took this plane, and why would he have taken this plane?
Well, they are a lot closer to Malaysia than Russia is, obviously. So they could have taken this plane to possibly hurt Russia. They could have hijacked the plane just for the fucking hell of it, to mess with Malaysia and all that stuff.
Right, they might have had beef with Malaysia. I mean, they have beef with a lot of people.
It also could have came into their airspace as well. Theory number 2 to this craziness is suicide, a crazy pilot, or secret information. Going on a couple of these things, there was a notation, of course, that Malaysia Police Chief Tan Sri Khalid Abu Bakar was the one who suggested disappearance could be the result of a suicide. He also claimed that someone on board could have taken out a large life insurance package before getting on the plane, so they could treat their family or pay back money that they even owed. Which is crazy, and some people unfortunately do that sometimes to help their families out or to get out of debt. This could have even been like a faked suicide, fake death,
Money is the root of all evil.
The second theory, of course, is secret information. Somebody could have been carrying secret government information that they didn't want to get out and could have flown the plane to a remote location where the plane would never have been found, of course. Which is crazy, my dude. And the third theory, of course, crazy pilot, kind of stems off the fact that Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull believes that it was the captain. And the ex-Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott also says that he's certain the pilot purposely drowned the plane. This could have been a result in the fact that he would have hijacked the plane in protest of the new government after they threw the other leader in jail. And there's also what we believe is that the pilot parachuted out of the plane after wrecking and that his girlfriend was waiting at sea for him. Which is fucking insane because why would you wait at sea for somebody?
Right, that's crazy. Just imagine somebody jumping out and then their girlfriend, hi!
Hey, how's it going? How was the mission, honey? How'd it go?
And they would have had to plan that really well.
Maybe they just had a, right place, right time, I guess. Do you think somebody could have possibly faked their suicide and as part of like a life insurance payout?
I definitely think that this could have been a result of suicide. Like I said, money is the root of all evil, and people are willing to do horrible things just for money. You know, who knows, maybe this person had a bunch of kids and they were not happy in their marriage or whatever, and they pretty much wanted to make sure their kids were taken care of. So they pretty much died, and then their kids got all this money and they're set for life.
Yeah, the dude was like, dip, dip, potato chip, I'm out. Leading into the theory that this could have been secret information from the government. Why do you think that they would have planned to fly the plane to a remote location without it being found, of course? Like, where did all those passengers go if that's the case? Did they die? Or did they do, like, witness protection for them? What do you think?
It could go either way. It depends on which government was carrying the information, because if, you know, Russia was carrying it, you know, I'm gonna be honest, the people might have died. But if it was the US may have just paid people to shut up, and maybe these people are in Bermuda living life like Larry. Who knows? But this one's a little bit more of a far stretch. But again, at the same time, like, what could have happened too is they could have been carrying secret government information. Like, it could have been the US, and then Russia obviously wouldn't have liked that, and Russia did hijack the plane and take it down. It also could have been vice versa, where Russia put some information on it, and then obviously the US ended up taking it down and covering it up. There's a lot of stuff that we don't even know about the CIA and stuff like that.
My last question is, do you think that the pilot could have been so meticulous that he could have planned to drown the plane and then meet up with his girlfriend as part of, like, a ploy?
So it is possible. I feel like it was more like he was crazy, didn't want to, like, necessarily survive it, so he took the plane down with, like, everyone. I mean, there is 2 prime ministers that did come forward and did talk about how the captain was a little bit shady, and that obviously the government in Malaysia at that time, a lot of people talked about how corrupt it was, you know, how unstable it was. And if your country is very unstable like that, then you're more than likely going to suffer from, like, depression and other stuff. So unfortunately, you might not make the most rational decisions. Also, we don't know a lot about his history as well, so he could have always been a little bit cuckoo, and we didn't know that, and they completely missed that. Now, for him actually parachuting and making it out, and his girlfriend coming by with the speedboat picking him up, I think that's less likely. That would take a ton of planning. She would have to really know, like, his coordinates and stuff. Also, when a plane crashes, you can't always predict necessarily, like, where you're gonna end up crashing or whatever. It seemed like he more likely crashed in the ocean, which is less likely for him to actually survive that sort of crash. So I don't think that his girlfriend was waiting for him at sea. So into the third theory, the plane crashed in the Cambodia jungle, or it was a ghost plane. A guy named N. Wilson in 2018 was on Google Maps just playing around, and whoop-de-doo, he found a plane. He thought that this plane looked exactly like the Malaysian Flight 370. Yes, it was confirmed that a plane did crash in the Cambodia jungle. Also, one of the theorists, it doesn't say whether it was the N. Wilson guy or someone else, but it does state that they talked to the native Cambodians, and they said that the native Cambodians supposedly said they believe that that plane that crashed was Flight 370. However, if you look at the timeline of events, it is more likely that Flight 370 crashed in the ocean. Because later on, during search and rescue efforts, there was some debris that was found on the beaches. Also, Christine Negroni, an aviation expert, his theory is that the plane suffered from depressurization, and depressurization is going to cause a deplete in oxygen levels, and obviously the lack of oxygen kills really quickly. This would have killed all the passengers in 15 minutes. She even believes that the pilot could be having a nap at this time and have just fallen asleep or whatever, and the co-captain was like in charge of this, and the oxygen levels were going down. He needed to land somewhere, but unfortunately there was no land nearby, so he pretty much had to crash the plane in the ocean. Basically, the lack of oxygen would explain all the dramatic turns that the co-pilot took. Do you think that the theorists really talked to the native Cambodians and that the plane that crashed in Cambodia was missing Flight 370?
I feel like that theorist is kind of bullshit, to be honest. He could probably be not, but I feel like if that was true, maybe like someone more creditable that was from Cambodia would have came out directly and said that the plane is indeed the missing Flight 370. It wouldn't have just came from the theorist's mouth,
right,
supposedly.
Right. And it wouldn't be like he said, she said. Like, it would have been like literally this person. And we
it would have been
don't see that.
confirmed.
Yeah. Do you think that it was very likely that the plane crashed into the ocean?
It's very likely due to the evidence that we've seen that there's debris found on surrounding beaches. There was debris that washed up on Australian beach, and there was debris that washed up in the Mascarene Islands.
Christine Negaroni, the aviation expert, talks about that they believe the plane suffered from depressurization, which depleted the oxygen levels. How probable do you think that cause is?
More likely than a lot of the theories, to be honest, because depressurization, which happens, of course, when something goes wrong with the plane, can cause depletion in oxygen levels, which lack of oxygen does a lot of things to your brain. You start to get lightheaded, you start to lose consciousness, sometimes you do pass out, of course. So it could have caused the pilot to pass out, which would mean the co-pilot would take over, and he might have not made it in time, of course, because he was experiencing the same effects as the pilot, so he had no choice but to crash into the water. I feel like that's more likely, and I feel like it's actually a really good, solid theory, because unfortunately that it does happen.
Right, and also it came from like an aviation expert who has experience with planes, so they probably are going to know a lot more than Billy Bob Joe from the street.
Actually, in fact, going kind of a little off of that last theory we talked about, Malaysia Airlines actually found a 15-inch crack in the body of one of its aircrafts before Flight 370 took off. Federal Aviation Administration insists it issued a final warning 2 days before Flight 370's disappearance, but this aircraft type did not receive the same warnings as the other Boeing 777s, which a crack, of course, in the body would cause the engine to fail. It would cause oxygen to leak out of the cabin into, of course, airspace, and that would lead to depletion of oxygen levels. Where do we think Flight 370 is?
I definitely highly believe that it is still in the ocean. I feel like if it was on land by now, we would have more than likely have found it, because let's be real, we have not discovered a lot of the ocean. We have actually discovered more in space rather than the ocean, so there is a lot of room left for this plane to be. Like, it could be literally anywhere in the ocean. And I feel like if it was on land, definitely someone would come across it, and like with Google Map technology and stuff, you know, if it was really the plane in Cambodia, they would have came out and actually said that it was that. Like, they would have. I do really believe that the most probable cause out of all of these theories is, again, from the aviation expert directly, about it suffering from the depressurization. We even have, you know, facts about how one of the aircrafts had a 15-inch crack in the body, and that's like a major crack that would have definitely caused a lot of issues. It would also cause engine failure as well. So I definitely really think that it's in the ocean, and I think that's why the plane crashed.
Yeah, I definitely think that plane's in the fucking ocean. I think that they didn't have enough time to turn back around to get to land, so it crashed in the ocean. And of course, our technology only goes so far, and we couldn't exactly go based off of where their last coordinates are because they're not correct. So I feel like it's definitely in the ocean, and due to evidence as well, as far as debris showing up on, beaches and in the Mascarenes Islands, that just kind of further proves that it's probably in the ocean.
Yeah, a lot of planes have gone missing in the ocean.
Yeah, unfortunately. Bermuda Triangle is an example.
It's funny, like the other day, Presley didn't know Bermuda was a country.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, I'm saying.
Homie.
Wow, life in Bermuda looks pretty cool.
Yeah, right. I mean, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's in the British Islands, so.
Yep, that island life. To this day, we still do not know where Flight 370 is and what exactly happened. Feel free to put your input in the comments. We also know that many lives were lost that day. There's nothing scarier than a plane going down. We hope one day to find answers on what happened that fateful morning.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. Remember to always keep your eyes open. You never know when someone's creeping.